With that in mind, I'll shut up. Stuart, tell us how to harvest components from toy handbags.
So my talk today is on harvesting components from toy handbags and how they help save Christmas. So let's explain what we're talking about. These are our donor devices. I think we'll all agree they're particularly fetching. I think they fail on being a toy and being a handbag, and that you can't actually put anything inside them. And they certainly did not sell well. Because they didn't sell well, there was a lot of these which were sitting around in shops, and their stores started to discount. I think they originally started off, this was a £65 toy, aimed at getting girls to code. That was the idea behind it. A bit condescending, I feel, but it's what they went with. One of our members, Sam, was walking through a toy store and spotted them on for sale, and it's a very, very low price. I think the lowest they got down to was about £8.50, which was way cheaper than you could buy the panels, which make them up. So each bag yielded a LED matrix panel, a really cool diffuser lens, which is actually one of the most useful things of it. It's 4 AA batteries and a few assorted wires and bits and pieces. You also got some slightly less useful, or at least for me, things. The pink leatherette tassels I haven't yet found a use for, and certainly the pink plastic enclosures are a bit of a challenge to something to do with, but they can come in useful. There's also a plastic strap. If anyone's got any ideas, I've still got an awful lot. That's one of the moment. Very poor quality picture. Unfortunately, with the exception of the panel, most of the electronics in there are pretty much in use. Well, it's a blow-on-board chip. You can't really do a fat lot with that, but you can use the panel. This is the panel itself. They're a pretty standard panel. You can buy them yourself. This one, I had to add an extra connector because there was only one connector on the original version. And to drive them, we're just using this RGB matrix bonnet, which does a good job, nice and simple. And these are some of the things which make them. So I do work for escape rooms, and we've used them for different puzzles in escape rooms, including this thing which is over there, which is basically this one here, which was for a game called Chocomatic, which was one for kids, and they had to make a chocolate bar for Easter and select the correct quantities of ingredients using that. Feel free to have a play with it a bit later. So that's what we've kind of done with them in the past. I won't go into detail about how we did some of these things. We've already written an instructable on how to do it, which I'll happily share the links to, and also this really good documentation on Adafruit on how to program them, so it's not really worth going into all of the details on that. But how did they save Christmas? Well, I think you'll all remember that this thing called COVID happened. And, I'm a member of a charity group that used to take a sleigh around the streets collecting money for charity. And it was a bit touch and go, but the council said, yeah, you can have a licence, you can take Santa out around the streets of Solihull and Birmingham. However, you can't actually collect any money. So they basically put a blanket ban on a stocking on any door, and they put a blanket ban on any interactions with the public at close range. And this was a bit of a problem for us. We normally raise somewhere in the sort of £8,000 to £10,000 a year, going around and distribute that money out to good causes. So we sort of had to think, well, what can we do? And we thought, well, an obvious thing is we could have people do a text donation. And then we thought, well, how are we going to let people know about that? So we thought, well, we'll come up with something. And this thing up here is what we came up with. We had a couple of these on the roof of the car that we were driving around, and it was sort of giving a text to donate code. And I think we raised about £4,500 in text donations, which, considering it's not a thing that people were used to doing or that form of interaction, it went pretty well. So this is me panicking, bearing in mind that we got the license about 3 weeks before we had to start, and it was like, we need to come up with a plan. So this is a load of these panels, which we got set up. This is one of the panels there, if you want to look at one later. And we got them connected up and started to try and get it working with the help of Glenn over there, who helped us get the code set up on it. And this is me, perhaps should have came up with a better testing jig, but we could see that they were all working and we were getting the some characters, so we were thinking, oh, this is going quite well. And then we sort of thought, well, actually, these have got to be on the roof of a vehicle that's going to be driven in the worst weather that we have of the year, and we probably need to make something. So this is a wooden enclosure that we made, and an awful lot of silicone, and an awful lot of paint, and then an awful lot of thinning tape, as you can see, made it relatively waterproof. And that's the inside of them. A few lessons that we learned while we were building these is that with that longer string, they start to glitch. In fact, even this one here, you can see it's glitching slightly on the far end, and that's just it being there. So maybe one panel less would have been an optimal number. But one thing which we did change quite recently, and we found that helps a lot, is that we feed the power in from both ends, and just to at least keep the power in the grounding a bit better. To drive them, instead we're using the little bonnet board, works well, and a Raspberry Pi. Once again, everything had to be made in a way that could be kept waterproof and would be reliable. The one thing that we did learn an interesting lesson about is that the SD card holder on a Raspberry Pi doesn't cope well with vibration. And yeah, the first pothole that went over, the SD card popped out and everything stopped working. So that's when we learned the benefit of a lot of hot snot to glue the SD card in, so we didn't have any problems like that going forward. That's the assembled side in my workshop, which I said all just made out of these panels. That was the text to donate sort of thing. We had that on some sort of scrolling thing like this. And of course, it also produced an awful lot of packaging. Now, across the times, that was 20 panels. It took me about 6 hours to strip that number of handbags, get everything out of the packaging, all the screws out. So doable, but not particularly fun. And there's them in use, going around with Santa on his sleigh. So the links to the resources which we utilised to put it together, and as a thank you to Samantha for finding them in the first place and giving us the pointer, and then Len for his assistance with the coding. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hot tips on new things that you've seen that we should be looking out for to harvest from? Because obviously, like, these would probably run out now.
So you can find them. They've actually started to go up in price a bit. They're currently running about £22–23. I've actually had very good success just keeping an eye on things like Facebook Marketplace, and if them coming up, you quite often find a kid who's been bought one who doesn't want it, and they're very happy to get £10 for it. So if you keep your eyes out, you can still find these things coming up. Other things which we've used for different projects, we've done car parts, tend to be quite good ones. Good ones to try with Land Rovers. The indicator lights and the side lights make a really good lamp holder for things. And Land Rovers, because they were so ubiquitous and so many were produced, these make a great enclosure, but they're like £2 or £3 brand new. Or you could get one from a scrapyard for probably next to nothing. So that's a good one. The main thing which I would say is, if you're going to need anything in quantity, like we do with this, try and find something which is actually currently being manufactured. You can often find one-offs of things which are quite easy to integrate into something, but as soon as you then need to make something else the same, that's when you can get really stuck.
Absolutely.
After the huge traveled over that pothole,
yeah,
how long did it take to diagnose a problem with the SD cards?
I would say about 20 minutes. But bear in mind that 20 minutes was done while the sleigh was still moving along the road, with me stood in the back of the car, hanging over the side, and you unscrewed the back of it. And I mean, to be fair, I had a fair idea, but that might have been what it was, because it was just the way it came, it kind of felt like that. But I did try a few other things first, and my initial thought was maybe it would be a fuse with blown or something like that, because obviously it was a fairly new device.
Apart from like the glitchiness, is there like a maximum number of panels that you can use?
There is maximum numbers, but you can have more than one string. So
Right.
it's per string that it's kind of limited. But in my experience, 8 seems to be the point where it's like really reliable.
Yeah.
9's kind of okay, and then you get to 10 and it's it starts to glitch quite frequently.
It depends on what's driving it. Because when we're doing the code for it, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. So I'd either be running like a demo program with put this text up, thank you, or like the more that display it's in Python. But if you were to write in C, the timings are a lot better, which means you can then there's more tolerance, or the tolerances are tighter, which means you can have more panels.
Actually, one of our members did his one of his degree projects was an FPGA board to drive these type of panels. You're entirely separate to having any involvement in this, but he just commercially gone and bought them in China and did a FPGA project. Which once again, you do have some things. Timing is really key with these kind of things. That if you can maintain the timing, they tend to be better than either.
Ooh, are you able to get these RGB matrix drivers for kind of like small SVCs other than Raspberry Pis, like Orange Pis or kind of like cheaper variants?
I mean, certainly you can use it with an Orange Pi, no problem with that. You can drive them with other devices. However, it's all down to the timing. Not everything maintains timing nearly as well. You can do them with an Arduino as well, but you're basically limited to about one panel.
Yeah, the biggest consideration there is your memory space, because you have to have an array that can store all the pixels. So if you've got a more powerful micro with a larger RAM size, then it's a bit better. But Arduino's really, really terrible for that.
Yeah. Well, if you use like a Pi Pico, like on the ARM ones, probably get good.
Yeah, there are people who there is actually a board which you can get for the Pico to drive these, but once again, I think they're limited to like 2 panels.
Yeah.
So you're quite limited. And these type of panels, I mean, you can just go and buy them. They're available on eBay, they're available on AliExpress. You can get different form factors. It's all pretty simple.
What's the communication interface for the panel?
It's basically a shift register, isn't it? It's only
I can't remember.
Yeah. It's basically a shift register that you're basically driving the data in with a shift register.
So there's a daisy chain shift register to just keep shoving data in that keeps passing it on.
Yeah, but it clocks it.
Yeah.
So you basically you shift in the next set of data, then it loads that set of data.
Its original form as a toy. So it's like encouraging them to be able to code or something. What's the interface?
So that was actually one of the really cool things which they did do is that they kind of had this theory that, well, we want this to be something that people do who won't have a computer. But they naturally assume that all little girls have phones. But so the way they actually uploaded your code was, we were going properly back to the 80s, and you actually played it out as an audio stream into it. So basically you plugged it into the headphone jack, which was the only thing you could fit inside the original toy. There was a little space that you could hide your phone inside. I have yet to find anybody who has actually used one as such. A friend of mine's daughter was bought one. And she does now write code and everything, but it was absolutely nothing to do with this. It was something that did not help sometimes.
That's cool. All right.
Thank you very much.